Hi Cancer, welcome to your March 2019 Tarology 33 reading. We have a Celtic Cross spread in front of us as always. That's usually 10 cards, but you guys got some extra cards that came up. And then we have 2 Oracle cards and a Mudra card to get through at the end. This was an interesting reading as I was laying out the spread. Like I had one vibe at the beginning of it, then like in the middle it seemed to shift again, and then the Oracle cards seemed to throw me for a bit of a loop too. So could just be that you guys have a lot going on this month. But we'll see as we go along. Maybe it'll start to register a bit more for me. But it's definitely an interesting spread. So we'll see how it plays out. One thing that I did notice too is there's no cup cards on the table too. So given that the sun is going to be in Pisces most of March, there's definitely going to be some water energy there supporting you. And but Mercury's going to be retrograde in Pisces as well, so maybe that's going to throw that water energy off balance a bit for you guys, and maybe that's what's going on. But like I said, we'll see as we go through the reading. So let's get started. Starting with the cards in the main situation, you got 2 there. You have the 7 of Swords, and you got the Queen of Swords. So the first impression that I got with this is that, to me, this is putting an end to some deceptive situation. Now, for some of you, that certainly could be self-deception, right? Although that's not the most likely thing that we see with the 7 of Swords. It usually is someone else involved in that deception. With it being with the Libra card here, this could be any air sign, but usually the queens represent the cardinal signs of the element, and that would be Libra. So with the queen here, that could be related to your 4th house too, and you guys naturally rule the 4th house. So it could be related to home, family, certainly. But I'm really getting the feeling though, with if there is a card to get paired with this, that would be a good card to help balance that energy out, no pun intended, since Libra represents the scales. It would be this card. And like I said, I'm really getting the feeling that this is something that's been going on for a while, whatever the case may be. I'm just looking at some of the other cards in that part of the spread makes me feel that way. So that is the good thing. I think we had talked about deception with you guys months ago. So maybe it's still something that's been going on since then. And, this might be the month when that finally shifts for you. So far I'm recording this in mid-February, a little bit earlier than usual because I'm going to be traveling. But, basically for the first month and a half of 2019, you guys had Mars in your 10th house. And, being Aries. And Aries, that's the sign that naturally squares yours. And now you guys have the North Node in your sign and the South Node in your opposite sign. And Mars was making all kinds of connections with the planets in Capricorn too. So it squared with Saturn and it squared with Pluto. It squared the nodes. So, it could just be that really brought things out to the forefront for you guys. And if that's the case, it could be related to social status, career, and possibly even relationships for some of you. But one way or another, I do see with these 2 cards together that deception will be coming to an end. So that is the one positive thing there. And, this doesn't always have to be, if it's a romantic relationship, for example, it doesn't always have to be someone's cheating. It could just be someone leaving you to do more of the work, right? That could be, like this is, for example, the example I give with this card sometimes is this would be someone doing all the things they want to do, right? Like it could just be hobbies, for example. It doesn't have to be their cheating. Maybe it's going out with their friends, whatever it may be. Might be quote unquote innocent as far as they're not doing anything to damage the relationship directly, but they're just doing what they want to do, knowing that, okay, these 2 swords represent the relationship, right? That represents them and you. So they're like, you know what? I don't have to put in any work here. I could do whatever I want to do and worry about myself because I know at the end of the day, this relationship will always be there for me, right? If it's a work setting, on the other hand, it would be more like, to me, it's, they could be giving you a lot more work than you could handle, right? And knowing that they're doing it too, basically, you know what I mean? Like saying, all right, they clearly would know that, all right, we're giving this person too much to do. For some of you, it could be, let's say you guys get bonuses around this time of year, right? Maybe they don't come up right at the end of the year for you guys. Maybe they're giving you less than they should, but they try to excuse it. They try to say, well, we only had this much to give you, when really they totally had a lot more that they could have given you, but for whatever reason they're withholding that from you. But like I said, if of all the cards to get with that card, this is one of the better ones you could get. Maybe Justice would have been better because that's the major arcana version of the Libra energy, but this is up there. Whether this represents your energy, because like I said, this Libra is your fourth house, so that's the house you naturally rule. So this could just be saying that you're taking on a bit more of an aggressive attitude towards this to make sure that this gets put to a stop, In the challenge or obstacle position, we have Temperance. So this is actually a major arcana card for Sagittarius, and that's your sixth house. So this could totally be work related, like I said. And we have Jupiter in that sign right now too. That's the sign that, that's Sagittarius naturally rules Jupiter. So, it could definitely be related to work. And it could just be saying that maybe whatever the situation is, there's an imbalance because of that. So, for example, let's say it is a relationship of some kind that's, you're experiencing that dynamic. Maybe it's throwing your work life out of balance. That's natural, right? If you're going through something at home, you come to work, you're not necessarily doing as good of a job as you normally would. This could just be saying, though, that this is a challenge or obstacle to get that balance restored, right? Because, like I said, with that Libra card underneath there, that could just be saying that you're putting a stop to this situation now, this deception. And this could just be you putting your foot down, really, and really just saying to them, look, this needs to stop. Whether, like I said, you go into work and tell them, look, you guys have been giving me way too much work lately. I have way too much on my plate. You guys need to, let me delegate some of that to other people, or you ask them for a raise. Or, like I said, if it's just been a relationship where someone knows that they haven't been pulling their weight in the relationship, and we'll get to why that could be the case too as we get a little bit further into the spread. So that could be it too. Like, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom or cheating. It could just be that someone just hasn't been putting in the work. And this month you're like putting your foot down, like, look, this needs to stop. So it could play out a few different ways for you guys. But with the Temperance card here, it is a challenge in the challenger obstacle position, but it is in the upright at least. So that's definitely a good sign. But yeah, it could just be saying that the challenge is to get things back in balance, basically. That's the main theme there. And like I said, even though there's no cup energy here, it looks like you're in some kind of mood to take action. So I don't know what it is. Like, even looking at the astrology, I was like, well, is there something that would really light a fire under Cancer this month? And I didn't really see anything like that, per se. But like I said, with the North Node going through your sign for the next, about another little less than a year and a half left of that, I believe. That's a big thing. If you guys know Leos, they were going through that before you guys because the nodes go backwards through the zodiac essentially. So if you know any Leos in your lives, you might have seen that they've gone through a lot of change and upheaval over the past year and a half before it came into your sign. So just to give you an idea. So that could just be what this is about. This could just be you putting your foot down, not putting up with things that you might have put up with in the past, and really just coming into your power. Because I think in January, the message I had for you guys was Know Your Worth, if I remember. That was the title I gave your reading there. In the foundation position, we have the Nine of Swords. So this is another, tough swords card to get. But the main thing is, to me, this is someone, that just has a lot on their mind and they're just really worrying about it. This represents anxiety, maybe difficulty sleeping. Um, but the key that I always say is, really, if you look at this though, the swords clearly aren't in that person's back, right? So there's that. It's just really more of a mental state more than anything, which is not to say that it's easy to get out of, don't get me wrong. Um, but that is just saying that, this is more of a mental thing. For some of you, it could even be depression, and if that's the case, hopefully that clears up for you guys soon. But not really getting that vibe. I just really think that there's something heavy on your mind, and it could just be, again, addressing whatever imbalance this may be. You could just be concerned about, all right, you know, should I speak up, right? Like, especially if you're one of the more, if your energy's more empathic, if you will, being a Cancer, sometimes you might have a difficulty, asking for what you want, right? You might feel guilty about it. You tend to put others before you a lot of the time. So maybe that's what it is. You might. So that might have been what attracted that dynamic, right? Where someone was essentially not, maybe not even purposely taking advantage of you, but letting you do more of the work. And now you might just be at a point where you're like, I can't do this. And maybe it's because other areas of your life are expanding, right? So you're like, okay, I can't put the energy into this that I used to. I need someone who's going to help me out, right? And maybe you're just worried about speaking up about that. Because I think your February reading was talking about going inward before speaking up. And I honestly don't remember what context that was in, but if that's the general theme you've been dealing with, this looks like it might be the month where you do speak up. In the past position, we do have the Judgment card. So for some of you, given that we have this and then we have that Libra card with the Seven of Swords, it's definitely possible that some of you might have gone through a breakup of a relationships. That's definitely a possibility. For others of you, someone might have come back around too with the Judgment in the past position. Um, for those of you who identify as more feminine, I always say with the Judgment card and the upright, if we look at the artwork there, it looks like the horns leaning towards the female. So if you relate as more of a feminine energy, it looks like whatever this was, it might have favored you in some way, shape, or form. So like I said, if it was, let's say, a divorce or a breakup, things might have worked out well for you in that regard. If this was maybe a job opportunity that you thought you missed out on, right? Maybe a bunch of people applied and maybe you hadn't heard back for a while and you thought, okay, well, I guess they must have gone with someone else, right? Then maybe you hear out of the blue, oh wait, actually, they are going to hire you, or maybe the person they initially hired ended up taking another job or didn't pan out, so now they come back around to you. There's a few different ways that could play out, but again, with this and that Temperance card, there's definite similarities there with the artwork, right? With the two angels, so this could just be saying again that whatever this imbalance was, it looks like things are shifting for that balance to be restored for you. So that's definitely a good thing there. In the present position, we have the Two of Pentacles. If I can get it to focus. And you have the World card. So to me, this could point again to that energy where you're deciding about whether to speak up about something, right? Or just flat out leave something behind if it's not serving you. That could be what you're looking at. With that Two of Pentacles energy, it shows that, coming into March, you might not be quite ready to make that decision. But with the World card here, it looks like it's saying it's time for you to move one way or the other. So, like I said, whether there's going to be energy supporting you, restoring that balance, that's certainly one way that could play out. But the World card being in the upright is definitely a good thing. It shows a completion of some kind. And, with the Two of Pentacles here, to me, it could just be balance. So, let's say if it was that job thing, right? Maybe you were out of a job or they weren't paying you what you felt they should, right? And now maybe they come back around and say, oh, actually, we are going to be able to give you that raise, right? So maybe if this represents financial difficulty you were experiencing, Maybe the world is saying, hey, that's coming to an end in March, and now things will move forward in that area for you. Uh, that could definitely be how that's playing out. But, I mean, like I said, it could just be with that Nine of Swords and the Two of Pentacles. To me, it's almost like there are signs around you, because that's what these major arcanas are playing as to me. It's like there are signs around you that are saying, hey, it's time to move, right? And you just might not be sure that it is the right thing to do or comfortable making that move just yet. That's really more of a vibe that I'm getting, and that could make sense too, especially like I said, with the North Node moving through your sign. That's a big deal. Um, it happens once every 18 years, basically. So it's a pretty big cycle, and it's really meant to help get you on your correct path in life. So it's definitely a pretty big deal as far as transits go. Like I said, just look at a Leo in your life. I know that if I think about the Leos in my life, they've definitely made some pretty big changes. Some have been forced upon them, others they've consciously made an effort to change some things, but that's kind of what you guys can expect as well. So this could definitely be just saying that, you guys are just feeling like maybe things are moving a little too fast for you, especially because, like I said, there's no cup energy on the table. I mean, yes, there are cups in the temperance card, but there are no actual cup cards. So you might just feel like you're just getting taken along for the ride here. You might be like, okay, what's going on? And especially the Knight of Wands at the bottom of the deck, too. Maybe that's what it's saying. It's like you just feel like you're just getting pushed along, and you're like, all right, I'm not sure if I'm ready yet, right? Maybe that's what this represents, too, the Seven of Swords. You having to leave some things behind, right? Maybe it's not deception at all. It's saying, hey, you have to take what you can and keep it moving, right? Maybe you want to take all that, but you can't take all of it with you. It's like, all right, it's asking you to let some things go, take what you do need, and keep moving forward. In the near future position, we have the Five of Swords. So, I mean, really, these are three of the tougher sword cards you can get. You have the 9, the 7, and now the 5. Um, what this could represent, normally this is always going to be a card that represents some kind of conflict. And usually, yes, there is a reason for the conflict, right? Like something's not in balance. Again, going back to that theme again, but then it's not handled in the healthiest way. And like I said, Mercury is going to be retrograde most of March, and it's going to be retrograde in Pisces. So that could just cause, Mercury and Pisces in general could cause confusion. And then when you add to that the retrograde, you know, this wouldn't surprise me if there were some conflicts that come about in that regard. Um, so just keep that in mind. Try to be a bit careful with your words if you can. I'm really getting the feeling like you guys, the energy is there for you to move on. And like I said, with the Queen of Swords underneath that Seven of Swords, that's definitely a supportive energy talking about restoring balance. Um, but I would say, well, try to be careful about how you do it, right? Because if this is you taking on like an eye for an eye type of energy, I mean, I get it, especially if you've been done wrong and you just want to retaliate. But just keep in mind, usually in the long run, it doesn't do much for you, you know. Um, that's what I would say there. There's not a whole lot of positive to take away from the Five of Swords when it's in the upright. Um, this does represent Aquarius as well, though, the first 10 degrees of Aquarius. So maybe this, like, if this does represent a conflict that happened, for example, maybe it happened at the end of January, and now it's finally being cleared up. This is actually an Aquarius card as well, the Seven of Swords. It's the last 10 degrees of Aquarius. So maybe this is some stuff that took place during the time of Aquarius, right? Like I said, technically we're still in the time of Aquarius as I'm recording this, but the spread is for March. So this could just be saying that things are getting cleared up from that time. Because, Mercury in retrograde can cause confusion and conflict, but it could also cause people to reflect on what did already happen and put things back together, if that's their goal, right? If you're like, okay, maybe I didn't handle that too well, then Mercury retrograde can be a good time to look back on it, even if you just reflect on it and don't even address it with that person. But maybe you just take it as a lesson type thing, like, okay, maybe I could have handled that a little bit better. Maybe that's what's going on there. But in your influence on the situation, we have the Knight of Swords and we have the Two of Wands. So this is why I'm saying, like, I get the vibe that in the beginning of the month, especially with that Nine of Swords at the bottom, the energy is there pushing you to move on something, but you might not feel comfortable in the moment. But I feel like something shifts at a certain point towards the end of the month, and then you're more than ready to go. You're finally ready to move on something. Um, and maybe that's what that card represents there too, that Queen of Swords. There's going to be a full moon in Libra towards the end of March, like right when the sun goes into Aries, and this represents the first 10 degrees of Aries. So maybe when that full moon hits, Libra representing your fourth house, that can make it a more significant full moon for you, and you guys tend to feel the full moon more anyway, since that's your ruler. That could be when you decide you're finally ready to move on something. For some of you, could literally be moving. You could actually be moving to a different place with these two cards together. But it looks like it would be, or at least it might appear to others that it's an impulsive move on your part, but I wouldn't necessarily see it that way. I do feel that this is something that's been on your mind for a long time, especially with the Nine of Swords there. This is something you've been considering. And again, maybe you just haven't vocalized it. So whatever it be, you want to move, you want to go to another job, right? You want to start your own business, whatever it may be. You want to leave a relationship if you felt that it hasn't been serving you. These are all things that could be going on. And once that energy shifts in, when the sun moves into Aries, that could be when you finally move on it. And like I was saying before, Aries, that's a sign that naturally squares yours. It's another cardinal sign like yours. So maybe that's what it's saying too. When the sun gets into that 10th house, you're just ready to move on things finally. So, I don't get the feeling that this is like something brand new though. Like I said, I feel like this is something that's been around for a while and you've given a lot of thought to, but it seems like just something shifts energetically in March where you're finally ready to move on it. All right, and the position of the environment's influence on the situation, we had the King of Wands. So this is a card for Leo, typically. This could represent a boss, so definitely if this is going back to what I was saying before, if it's a workplace thing, right? Maybe this is them stepping up. Like I said, maybe you finally speak out and say, look, you guys have me doing all kinds of work. Maybe you're doing a lot more than other people in your position are doing, right? And you're like, well, I either need someone to pick up the slack here and take on more of the work. I need more pay. Something needs to change, right? But another way this could be playing out too, when I initially mentioned the relationship dynamic with the Seven of Swords, saying that it might not be that anyone, it might not be an infidelity thing. It could just be that the person isn't putting in their fair share in the relationship and they know it. And maybe it bubbles over into a conflict, and maybe that's what that Knight of Swords represents, right? That's you, coming at them and calling them out on it basically. This King of Wands energy in that regard, that's why I was saying, in a way it could represent someone who's being lazy, like they feel, they're in that king energy, right? Like, oh, I deserve to be taken care of, right? So, this might be the moment that you have to give them a little chin check, basically, and ask them to pick up the slack and get it together on their end, because I don't see any necessarily unexpected endings or anything like that. For some of you, yes, but for a lot of you, this looks like, the Five of Swords energy, for example, doesn't have to mean an ending to something. It definitely can mean a blow up. Like you could have definitely a argument with someone, But if this is something, if it's a long-term relationship that you are happy in, but it's just that you need the other person to pick up the slack, with them being in the upright, if you do call them out on it, they should put in more effort. Like I said, it could just be you getting to that point. Like I said, you guys don't always feel that comfortable asking for help, and you almost get comfortable taking care of other people. And like I said, maybe because of the North Node, other areas of your life are taking off now. And now you're like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I could do everything around the house after work before, but now that work, is picking up for me, I can't really be doing all that. I need some help, right? And that's the most likely dynamic I'm seeing there. In the hopes or fears position, though, we do have the death card. So, okay, this is actually technically a water energy. It's not a cup card, but it is the major arcana card for Scorpio. So for some of you, with this as a hope, I'm assuming this could be a hope or fear. If we say it's a hope, that would be fifth house stuff. So maybe it's a creative project that you're trying to get off the ground for some of you. And maybe that's what this has been all about too, right? You're like, okay, well, trying to balance, okay, how am I going to put work in with my regular job, but also get my side business started, right? And maybe that's been the challenge for you. And maybe even some of you have been like in work, you're like, okay, maybe instead of doing your regular job, maybe some of you have been on the side trying to, maybe researching stuff on the internet, right? Like, okay, maybe do I have to order supplies? Whatever your side business you might be trying to get off the ground is, you might have been putting a little bit of that work on that during your regular job. That's certainly the case for some of you. But yeah, with that in the fifth house, with that representing your fifth house, I should say, this could just be saying you're hoping to get a creative project off the ground. For some of you, though, this can say that you're ready for a relationship to end. Like I said, there's movement, there's a vibe of movement. You're worried about it, you've been thinking it over. If that's what the conflict is about, and the Knight of Swords, saying that you might cut them out of your life and then be ready to start over with that Two of Wands. So that's definitely a possibility for some of you. The majority of you, though, I think this is more about getting balance restored in a relationship or in the workplace, not necessarily leaving something behind altogether. Yeah, for most of you, I don't think it's like a flat out ending. But for some of you, it certainly could be the case. And then in the outcome position, we have the Seven of Pentacles. So to me, this could just be saying that you're just exhausted by the end of the month. For some of you, like I said, it just seems like there's a lot going on for you guys in March. Guys, I have to let me know if that's really how it plays out. But there's a few ways that this energy could play out too, though. Sometimes this is a comparison card. At least for me, it is, where I say, if this represents the Six Pentacles that someone else has grown, right? And this person's like, well, I only have one, like I don't get it. You might feel like you should have just as many, right? You're like, well, why do I only have this one and they have six? So again, going back to feeling imbalanced in some way. For others of you, though, this could just be like reflecting too on the work you've put in, right? Like maybe you're just exhausted. And again, like I said, if that's the case where this is an imbalanced situation where you feel like you're putting in more work, whether it be in the workplace, in a relationship, in a family dynamic, because like I said, it could be fourth house related stuff too. Maybe that's just how you're feeling at the end of the month, but it looks like you're going to make some movement here. And with the King of Wands in the upright, there is some supportive energy there. Like I said, it seems like the major arcana cards, the way they laid out here, looks like they are pushing you to move forward in some way. So, trying to think if I'm getting anything else with that card. Any other messages there? And for some of you, you could feel like you're starting over, and maybe looking back on, and maybe that's what it is too. If you're like trying to decide, do I want to go to a new job, right? You're like, maybe you're looking at, well, I've already put in 6 years here. If I move on to another job, then it's going to feel like I'm starting from scratch, right? So you might be like doing a cost benefit analysis essentially. Or if it's a relationship, like, all right, I've been with this person for 6 years. It feels like the growth it's taking longer to get the relationship to grow more. But again, like I said, if that involves you having to tell someone to step up a bit, looks like the energy is there. Even if it comes out as an argument initially, usually that's what happens when things bubble over. If it's just been long overdue, and like I said, Mercury will be retrograde, so that could be how it plays out for some of you. But the overall vibe I'm getting is that the energy is asking you to move. Like I said, for some of you, it could be literally moving, but just getting balance restored, basically, in some way, shape, or form. All right. And then the Oracle cards, the first one you guys got was exchanging gifts. There's the artwork for it, and it's number 27. So like I said, when I pulled this one, for starters, I was like, well, I'm not sure that's vibing with the general spread, but hopefully it resonates for some of you. It's a pretty positive card. I don't remember the messages off the top of my head, but we'll go in the book and look at them anyway. I was like, yeah, I wasn't necessarily getting that vibe. All right, so it says essential meanings: the law of giving and receiving, currency, trade-offs, weighing cost, and determining value. So weighing cost and determining value, that immediately makes me think of that Seven of Pentacles card there. So maybe that's just where you're at, just thinking things over in that regard. The Oracle's message says you're entering into a productive and enriching time when all manner of opportunities are being offered to you. You have everything you need to seize them, yet in order to honor them, you must put in the time, exchange your experience and skills, and commit heart and soul to what you're choosing to pursue. You can do it. You have what it takes to be successful if you align with the law of giving and receiving. You must engage in the dance of give and take, push and pull, doing and being. If you let fear guide your choices, you could deplete yourself or create an imbalance. This is not a time of just do, do, do. Use your currency wisely and be mindful of the values others bring to your life. I guess I shouldn't have doubted the Oracle deck, right? I mean, this actually is a pretty supportive message for the main spread, as far as it's saying, like I said earlier when I was saying maybe you guys just aren't comfortable asking for what you actually deserve. Like I said, you might not feel comfortable asking someone else to pick up the slack, right? You might just feel so comfortable in that role of being the nurturer and the giver, right? But it's saying, hey, sometimes you have to receive as well, and use your currency wisely and be mindful of the value others bring to your life. That could be, again, what that Seven of Pentacles energy is referring to. So, and the Queen of Swords under that Seven of Swords saying, hey, I need balance here, All right, the relationship message says love is an exchange of life force energy between two beings. It grows exponentially when it's reciprocated. You must give and receive in order for love to flourish and abundance to flow between you. Spirit wants you to start accepting all the blessings waiting for you, as well as offer the same gift in return. Open your heart and allow it to be filled. Let love in and let it flow out of you too. Love is truly yours today. So, I mean, again, it's another message there where it's like, try to open up to that receptive, the receptive energy, right? As opposed to always being the one to feeling like, oh, I have to do this for this person, or oh, let me take care of them, let me do this, let me do that, right? Especially if other areas of your life are starting to get busy. Like I said, don't wear yourself out. Don't feel like you're in that position by the end of the month where you just feel like you're just exhausted and drained, right? Allow people to take care of you for once, right? And then the prosperity message says all your hard work and efforts, your commitment to learning, creating, and spending your time wisely pays off in ways you may not have been anticipating. The gifts of yourself, your time, your ideas, and the energy of your intentions are being reciprocated by the universe, which is sending you signs and signals, aligning synchronistic meetings and opportunities to bring you success and more. Everything is an exchange. Keep doing what you're doing. Goodwill comes back tenfold. So as far as I mean, I already talked about how you guys have the North Node moving through your sign, so that could be what that's referring to there, saying that, your energy and intentions are being reciprocated by the universe, sending you signs and signals, right? Maybe that's what the Judgment, the Temperance, maybe that the World card in the present underneath that Two of Pentacles, maybe that's what that's all about. So, it might just be about trusting the things coming your way too. All right, and now we'll look at the next oracle card you guys got from, this one is from the Spirit Animal Oracle. You guys got Porcupine Spirit. It says, time for beginner mind. There's the artwork for it, and the number for that one is 48. Actually never got that card before, so we'll see what it says though. It says, when Porcupine Spirit calls your name, you are being asked to adopt a beginner's mind and to approach situations with innocence and curiosity. The old, confining stories no longer have a hold on you. Life is full of surprises hiding in plain sight. Looking at the world afresh with new eyes can help you find what you have been seeking, whether it is a relationship, an opportunity, or evidence that you have all you need right now to co-create what you desire. Who knew? Porcupine asks you to be playful and have a childlike curiosity. There is so much waiting for you that you have yet to discover. So, what I was thinking about as I was reading that was the old confining stories no longer have a hold on you. So that made me think of this Nine of Swords, where whatever fears you might have had of growth, right? Or like I said, asking for what you feel you deserve, maybe those are finally falling away for you. And one thing too, I almost forgot to mention, this card when it came out sideways. So it's like it wasn't necessarily upright, it wasn't necessarily reversed. So what I'm going to do, what these oracle decks have is they have a protection message for if the card comes out in reverse. So I'll read that one to you guys too in case it resonates. Because like I said, it came out right on its side. So we'll read the protection message and maybe that'll resonate for some of you because it does feel like there's definitely some different energies there. It says, are you feeling prickly and defensive lately and assuming you will be hurt before you even see any sign that such a reaction is called for? Perhaps an old sense of guilt and shame is causing you to be cynical and wary when you are meant to be open and curious. Self-protection is a good thing, but you may be protecting yourself from something that will not actually harm you, but instead will bring you abundance, happiness, and love. Remember your innocence, and you will see what you have been overlooking. Porcupine quills are filled with air, allowing a porcupine to float in water. Now is the time to let your innocent nature keep you buoyant. Well, I mean, that's definitely a pretty fitting message for a water sign, that's for sure, but feeling prickly and defensive, right? Maybe that's what that Five of Swords energy is about, and that Knight of Swords could represent that as well. Maybe assuming you will be hurt before anything happens, right? That could be what that Nine of Swords energy is about. Maybe it's something in the past, right? Something from your past. And you might, because it did mention guilt or shame. So for some of you, if this does resonate, that could be what it's saying, just like try to move past that and let it die, right? Maybe that's what the death card is about. Maybe it's saying you want to let that go. Maybe that's why that would be in the hope position. So hopefully that one resonated for some of you as well. And then the last thing we have is a mudra card. And the mudra card you guys got was the Chakra mudra. And there's the actual mudra itself. So for those of you who haven't seen it from the past couple months, I'll just give you a quick rundown. Basically, mudras are they're gestures or poses that you make with your hands normally, and you could do them while you're meditating. Usually, they say you want to hold it for at least 5 minutes. Some say half hour, 45 minutes. If you're not someone who normally meditates, that might sound a little crazy, but the 5 minutes shouldn't be too bad. And then they usually help to clear up blockages in certain areas of your life, both physical and mental. Um, and the key word for this one is consolidation. We'll just turn it around, take a quick look at the messages here. So, let me get it to focus in case you guys wanted to take a screenshot of it. Okay, and as you can see, it says for the benefits, centering and grounding improves digestion, assimilation, elimination, reduces gas and bloating, increases vigor and self-confidence. So, increases vigor and self-confidence. If you guys are feeling, like you're in this energy coming into the month, maybe that'll be what helps you get to that Knight of Swords energy, right? So, and I think one of the cards, I can't remember which one it was now, but talking about seeing the world through new eyes, right? Maybe that's what this was referring to as well there, right? If we look at them, this technically represents the first 10 degrees of Aries, so that's the first 10 degrees of the zodiac year, right? Usually the zodiac year is going to start in Aries, so this is really like the first card of the tarot, if you will, in that regard. So maybe it's just really saying that fresh start that you need. And it could just be a shift in perspective, especially with that Nine of Swords there. Like I said, that's more something in your mind than something that's physically playing out. And there's a lot of sword cards here. So hopefully this reading resonated for you. Like I said, it seemed a little weird. It seemed to flow a little bit as I was going through it. But yeah, it still feels like maybe there was a little bit up in the air. But hopefully that resonated for you guys. And I'll see you guys next month. Bye.